Now, I'm always asked, how do we get here? How do we get to such a crazy spot where saying men can't have babies is deemed divisive and transphobic, or believing only women should compete in women's sport is hateful, and not supporting a neo-Marxist group like BLM is somehow controversial? How do we get to this point, Jordan?
Oh, we can pretty much blame the universities. So, I mean, and I would say more particularly the faculties of education, who are corrupt beyond comprehension and have done a dismal and wretched job for 70 years. And so these ideas are promoted in universities in almost all the social sciences, I would say, and certainly in the humanities, and now increasingly in the sciences. And the fact that the ideas are attractive isn't that surprising, because similar ideas were attractive all across the world for the bulk of the 20th century. And, people all across the ex-Soviet bloc suffered dreadfully as a consequence of that. But we haven't suffered because of these ideas for a long time. And people are very badly educated historically. They have no idea really what happened in the Soviet Union, for example, or during the Cold War. And so the ideas are attractive to people in some sense, because they say, well, if you're suffering, first of all, that's terrible. And of course it is. But second of all, it's someone's fault, and it's a consequence of an unfair social system. And the truth of the matter is, social systems are always somewhat unfair, and they are always somewhat corrupt. But the truth of the matter is that the systems that we've put together in the free West, the free market systems and the systems based on respect for the dignity of the individual, and also respect for the power and necessity of the free market, are the best social systems that anybody's ever created anywhere. And they're the only systems that have ever ameliorated absolute poverty in any real sense. So they still produce inequality, which has its downside and does produce some of the suffering that we described. But in terms of lifting people out of poverty, which means giving them enough to eat and ensuring that they have a place to live, let's say, there's nothing that compares to free market rule of law systems predicated on the dignity of the individual. But our education systems are so appalling, so that people just don't know this. And so young people with their sort of messianic drive are easily enticed into identifying with a foolish, what would you say, an unthinking, unidimensional compassion for the so-called oppressed, and have no idea that the systems that we've instituted are actually the best way out of that oppression.